Think of the historical Appalachian Highlander, and a specific image usually comes to mind: a solitary hermit living out his days in a remote mountain hollow, entirely cut off from the rest of the world. That image grew out of city newsrooms. In the late 1800s, local color writers and journalists traveled south, looking for sensational material to sell back east. They crafted a profitable caricature of the uneducated, isolated mountaineer. That paper myth ignores the physical reality of the region. The Appalachian landscape is sliced apart by deep, unpredictable river systems. Surviving here required a massive effort to overcome those currents. Early residents built a sophisticated system to move their families and their livelihoods across the water. Waterways like the Tennessee, like the New and the French Broad, were massive geographical barriers. Anyone moving crops or livestock to coastal markets eventually hit a wall of fast-moving water. To get goods across, local residents built a sprawling, interconnected network of river ferries. Moving heavy cargo across a churning mountain river is physically dangerous. One bad maneuver could sink a harvest or drown a crew. Navigating these channels was the only way to move goods out of the interior, turning these treacherous riverbanks into the region's first major transit corridors. From the early 1800s until the 1880s, the Southern Highlands were dominated by the droving industry. Herdsmen marched tens of thousands of hogs, cattle, and mules on the hoof toward the distant southeastern markets. Look at this photograph of a typical early wooden footbridge. While structures like this existed in the region, drovers actively avoided them. The timber construction was often weak, narrow, and easily washed out by seasonal floods. If you try to march a tightly packed herd of cattle across a low-sided wooden span, the animals frequently spook and jump straight into the river. Choosing flatboats over early bridges was a deliberate, calculated logistical decision to protect valuable livestock. To move those large herds safely, locals relied on a specific engineering solution: the current-propelled flatboat. Operators strung a heavy cable across the river. The flatboat connected to this line via pulleys. Instead of rowing, ferrymen angled the hull against the rushing water. By holding this angle, they harnessed kinetic energy, letting the river's speed push the barge across the channel. These operators didn't fight the water. They applied mechanical physics to turn a massive natural obstacle into an engine. This photograph shows a fully loaded flatboat. Ferrymen worked grueling hours managing heavy loads. Because crossings took time, travelers constantly gathered on the banks, waiting. Those crowded landings naturally attracted business. Taverns, blacksmiths, and feed stores emerged at the water's edge to service the waiting crowds, creating spots where news and trade goods exchanged hands quickly. The ferryman was the primary local node anchoring a community's economy. Toward the end of the 19th century, large-scale industrialization arrived in the form of heavy steel bridges and national rail networks. This new infrastructure centralized long-distance travel, pulling traffic away from the old river paths and onto the rails. The new steel rail lines were plotted for efficiency between major cities. As a result, they completely bypassed the localized ferry crossings. When the drovers and travelers vanished, the local taverns and blacksmiths lost their customers. The river landings emptied out, leaving the surrounding communities abruptly cut off from the main flow of commerce. This sudden silence created a state of profound isolation, a modern condition forced onto these towns by a shifting technological landscape. By the time northern journalists, timber barons, and land speculators traveled into the mountains, the local ferry economy had already collapsed. These outsiders looked at the newly emptied-out communities and assumed they were seeing a permanent, historical state of poverty. They wrote sensationalized stories about backward mountain hermits who had supposedly never seen the outside world. Those articles sold well, but they erased a long history of robust trade and complex engineering. The story of the Appalachian Ferry shows that geographical barriers don't automatically create isolation. Long before the railroads arrived, the people of this region engineered their own connections, turning rivers into highways and proving that the history of the mountains is far more complex than the myths printed in city papers.
Thanks for watching. Please join us again next time for more history from the mountains. Don't forget to like and subscribe,